Welcome to our webinar. So we're here today to talk about how you can help fill roles faster and not be scrambling every time a new position opens. And one of the ways we really think that you can do this is to turn your past connections into future hires, right? And so that's what we're going to talk about. So for the next 45 minutes, how our time will flow is I'm going to spend about a little bit of time, 10 or 15 minutes, just level setting with the group, making sure we're all on the same page in terms of passive talent, what we mean by that, and maybe giving you a little bit of insight in terms of like how that can help you. Sid is going to share a demo in terms of how we really think Wizehire can help you in this way. That'll probably get us to about the 30-minute mark, and then we'll open it up for questions. Please feel free at any point throughout to drop questions in Q&A or in chat. Both myself and Sid are here to answer questions. We also have some of our team in the background who can answer questions for you, so we can make sure that all of that is covered. So that's how we're going to spend our time. So before we jump in, I do want to just take a second to introduce myself. Besides being on vacation last week and coming back with a cold, I'm also the Vice President of Marketing here at Wizehire. I've been here for 3 years. It'll be 3 years next
Time
month.
flies.
And before I was here, I was at Indeed for about 6 years. And why I mentioned that is because I spent about 10 years in HR tech, specifically focused on how to help employers and businesses find the most amazing talent for their companies. Always focused on more the business to business side and not the job seeker side. So this has been really exciting 3 years in terms of thinking about specifically small and growing businesses and how to help them find talent. I have on the call with me our co-founder and CEO, Sid, who's going to be sharing some exciting new functionality that we have on our platform. Sid, why don't you share for folks who don't know you, share a little bit about yourself and kind of like the Wizehire story.
Yeah, no, again, first off, thanks for joining the call. I know we got a lot of existing customers, so really appreciate y'all. We got in this business because of y'all at the end of the day. We know you have incredible roles, you have many hats that you're wearing, and we think of it as our responsibility to you to find talent, make those connections, and I think with what we'll talk about today, make Wizehire even more valuable. So again, it's a pleasure for us to support y'all, and that's how we get excited every morning when we wake up.
Fabulous. So let's jump in. So, I think I want to share the good news first. Unemployment is pretty low. It's at 4.2% as of July 2025. The interesting thing, though, is that low employment doesn't necessarily translate to easy hiring. And I think many of us on the call can relate to that. That's what it says on paper. But in reality, what we see, and this is data from the National Federation of Independent Businesses, is that 33% of small businesses have unfilled openings, and about half say that they are getting few or no qualified applicants. So there's what we see in terms of unemployment, but then there's the reality that all of us are experiencing every day. So we really want to think about what can we do different than we've done in the past to make sure that we are able to really get the talent that we need to fill those jobs and those roles. Um, so we think it's really important to think about, passive talent. And I'm sure many of you on the call already know what I'm talking about when I say passive talent. But what I mean when I say passive talent is simply people who are not actively looking for a job right now, but may be open to the right opportunity. And when we look at this research from LinkedIn, what they show is that 70% of the global workforce is made up of passive talent, but almost 9 out of 10 are open to new job opportunities, which is great. It also means, though, that we have to be playing offense and defense, right? Because even the talent that we have that might be happy right now can be inspired by a new opportunity, or if they become dissatisfied with their current situation, they can be open to new opportunities. And then if you add in maybe high stress or high burnout positions, right, the likelihood of that could increase. So we want to make sure that we are not scrambling at the last minute if we then have an open role, because it's not just disgruntled talent that we have to be concerned about. The good news, though, is that your next great hire may already know you and you may already know them. A lot of your past connections are, some of this talent that you can tap into that would be considered, passive talent. So you have your silver medalists. These are people who were strong past candidates. Maybe they were a strong second. Maybe they weren't exactly right for that one role, but they were really high quality talent and you wanted to keep them engaged and nurtured. Of course, employee referrals. 70% of employee referrals as a source generate 70% more good hires, and they fill roles 35% faster. And then past staff or seasonal talent, especially in places like hospitality, right? These are people who are familiar with your culture already and the way that you operate. And why? Like, why is this important? How does it give you an edge? Well, what we've seen is that you're going to get 3x more qualified applicants from passive talent. It's a 40% lower cost per hire and an up to 50% faster time to hire. So this is really where that speed comes into play. You're not scrambling at the last minute. You're not being reactive. You have a proactive strategy in place. I think it'd be really interesting. I want to share a little bit of some of the examples that we've seen from some other sort of industries. But I would love to hear from folks what you're doing in this space. Presumably, some of you might already be, engaging with passive talent. Would love to hear a bit about, what you're already sort of doing. If you could drop it in the chat, that would be great.
Cool.
And maybe here's a better question. Do you currently have any strategies in place to engage passive talent?
I think while folks are, thinking about recent hires, one of the biggest things that we saw, I think even in the early days of Wizehire, was you'd start using Wizehire when you had an immediate need. Someone called in, you're expanding, there's an opportunity, you're not finding talent, you've been looking to fill a role for a while. And we recognize that what Wizehire in the early days was solving was just for that very reactive hiring need. And I think with what is going on, especially in this labor market, with some of the, the capabilities we'll show off, um, you know, nurturing talent for that right moment in time has such a high ROI. I would always run into realtors in the early days because that was one of our first industries. And it was this idea of the database. Like I'm just building a database for the right time, the right moment. Here we see, Laura talking about referrals and networking. Such a great use of, building this large network. See, Aaron's talking about sourcing on the back end on Indeed, focusing on agents. Yep, 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 exactly.
One thing I also wanted to do, I actually forgot to do this a little bit earlier, but I also wanted to get a sense of what your top hiring challenges are. I think that could also be kind of like an interesting insight to have as we kind of go into the demo as well. So we do have a poll that we can bring up um, to sort of get at this. We tend to have a consistent theme when we do this. I'm curious to see if it will be consistent here. But I think if it's what I think it's going to be, I think passive talent and thinking about that talent pipeline and being more proactive is one of, several ways we need to think about of addressing this hiring challenge. We'll give it a little bit more time. Okay, let's see what we have.
Absolutely no surprises.
Yeah, yep, yep, yep. Finding enough qualified candidates, absolutely. Candidate ghosting or poor communication, losing great candidates due to slow hiring. Yeah, so I think that, and in particular, finding enough qualified candidates, which was absolutely what I thought was going to be the number one hiring challenge. Um, I think, can really be addressed by thinking about being more proactive and thinking about sort of your talent pipeline. So what are some of the things that, we sort of start to get a gauge from folks on the call in terms of like how you're sort of thinking about passive talent, or how you sort of, approach this idea of nurturing candidates. What we have heard from some of the other customers that we work with is that for hotels in particular, this idea of being able to rehire seasonal staff, and by nurturing those past applicants has worked really well. For legal, law firms often need to build broad talent pools and then nurture to find candidates with the right credentials. And then in real estate brokerages, often need to keep candidates warm until they're licensed. Maybe they don't have their license yet. And you really want to be able to stay connected to them until you're ready to hire and when you actually need them. So that's just some of the ways that we've seen it potentially benefit different industries and how folks are turning past connections into future hires. Hopefully, this gives you just a little bit of insight in terms of um, kind of what we've seen as we've talked to, customers that work with us, what some of the challenges have been in terms of like filling those roles and scrambling to fill roles. And so in an effort to address that, we've added some new, functionality and features into the platform, really with the intention of thinking about how Wizehire can actually help. So now I'm going to turn it over to Sid, who can share a little bit of a demo of something that's really kind of hot off the press, that we can share with all of you.
Love it. Carmen, thanks for the context and level setting here. I think before I dive into the demo itself, I'll show off the WiseR product as y'all know it, and then I'll show off some capabilities that are newly launched for our growth and larger package customers. This is of course the dashboard that everyone is used to. We've made a lot of investment here, especially with WiseR Scout. We'll probably make our next webinar about some upcoming updates to Wise Scout. But the biggest thing I wanted to draw everyone's attention to first in this demo account is the talent pool. We realize that on the journey of hiring, if you think about like the poll results earlier, we all have this role that has to get filled. We're reactive to it. We're focusing on that one role. But what we are aiming to do with Wizehire with so many more updates is really to help you have a single talent universe that you can then nurture and then match into the right role at the right time. And before I dive into the product itself with the talent pool, which has I think been out for at least like nine months or so, I want to actually pivot to something that maybe some folks haven't seen. This is actually from one of our like presentations that we do with like customers or incoming prospects. But when I talk about a talent universe, what we're really aiming to do is stretch beyond the wiser that maybe some folks have known from like day one, which was primarily active job seekers from job boards. Those still compromise the majority of candidates that are out there. They're spending time. They're leveraging capabilities like AI to apply for roles. And we think actually what we've seen, not think, but what our data has suggested is the quality of active job seekers due to some of the changes in the market has actually been declining. It is in some industries, it is quite competitive, right? You think about technology as one industry where due to a lot of restructuring, there's a lot of people looking for roles. There's few roles. There's new capabilities, and so the signal to noise ratio with job sites has been diminishing. Over the years, we've launched more capabilities. Employee referrals is a built-in product. Where you can actually track referrals, know who passed that referral, back to what Carmen was sharing. And then I think the last thing that is also available in every person's account is in-person applications. I know like some folks are in, in industries where that may not be the case, but if you think about our retail and hospitality customers, a lot of folks have been generating QR codes that they can then go ahead and put into their, display as an example, and we're, getting a lot of applicants that way. And so if you think about all of these tools and capabilities that we've rolled out, again, our responsibility is to find the complete universe of talent for you. And with what we'll show off in a little bit, we think that while people that raise their hands may not be a great fit for the particular role you're interviewing them for now, building that relationship earns you the right to reach out to them when that next opportunity opens up. So with that, I'll kind of dive into the product a little bit, and then we'll do some Q&A, and happy to kind of like take this where we need to go. Um, for our customers that are on, I'll just show our pricing as an example. For customers that are already on growth and concierge plans, this capability has been fully rolled out now, which is campaigns and cohorts. It's a new tab that you have access to. And in here, we've been spending a lot of time talking to customers to really build the CRM capabilities that so many of us are used to in our sales and marketing lives, but to bring it into our hiring product such that it's highly accessible, and is anticipating the best practices for you, like we do with everything at Wizehire. Um, the functionality is like, this is the simplest demo, honestly. We have the concept of campaigns, which you can define for a certain type of intent. Are you trying to nurture talent that were fits for the future? Are you trying to develop people that may not have a license, as an example? We'll define campaigns, and campaigns are if I dive into one right here, which is a future fit campaign, you can name your campaigns. You'll have insights into all the analytics behind them, who's engaging with them. And so we're almost taking this idea of hiring as a marketing funnel or sales funnel, but now then building more relationships so that you can recycle that candidate through and match them that right role. Um, the key like part of this is really the cohort that you define. Cohorts are how you can very quickly define a group of candidates that may not have applied to one role, but a whole host of roles. I'll actually jump in and show off building a candidate, a cohort. Um, they are limited to the one organization. Because obviously we have to be very mindful about data sharing across, especially if you've got multiple units or multiple properties. You simply label that, cohorts, I'll say in this case, let's say top sales candidates. Um, you can give a description so that you yourself remember it. None of this is actually exposed to the job seekers. And then the really important thing is how you define that cohort. Are these candidates that you've saved? Could they be someone that you've dragged into a particular hiring stage? Or, as a lot of us like to do, are you using a particular tag? I'll say maybe this one's qualified interview, because that's the bar that I have for top sales candidates. Once you save that cohort, and again, you can have a group of cohorts, the next thing that you have out of the box are templates for emails that you can define on a specific cadence. When we built this product, we were talking a lot with customers that were very aware that they wanted to focus on nurturing relationships, but the hardest part was doing that work of automating it or knowing the right time to follow up with people. Today, we're rolling out a time-based sequence where you can define new emails and how many days out they would be sent. These can be pulled from your template library that you already have in the product. There's a lot more, I think, customization that'll come about in the sequencing, along with events, reacting to if they're responding to you, things like that. And the final things that you simply have to define is just what's the name on the email as they're building this relationship. And these, as we've rolled them out with some of our customers in early beta, have helped to fill passive roles, roles especially where licensure is required or where we're launching a new property. That's been a really interesting one with our hospitality customers, especially if you're very acquisitive right now. You're building the same location. You've got candidates that maybe there was an abundance of them for a particular new property, but you want to keep in touch with them to invite them to apply for the next location. These are some ways that we've seen customers take advantage of this capability. Um, And so I'll just say that after you have it set up, and this is where our coaches can also help to configure it. Out of the box, you will get a default set of campaigns and templates that are going to be really focused on future fit and then interviewing. But we have a lot more that we can help customize as we do hiring strategy sessions for you to identify for your particular market, your particular role, where there may be opportunity to find talent and nurture it over the long term. And then the last thing that you do once you have a campaign is just hit save, hit start campaign, and it'll kick right off. Um, I'll show an interesting one that connects the campaigns and this capability to the ATS. For those of you that are like power users, here's some of the cohorts that we have that I described. So we had the one where I said my top sales candidates are if I tag them as qualified interview. The other one that we have here is if they're moved to a stage that's called future fit. I'll actually go into the dashboard for this demo account and kind of highlight this. I'll pick the administrative assistant. Um, Anytime you move someone into that future fit stage, they'll automatically get sequenced for those campaigns. So again, the work that you're doing day to day as you build a rhythm in how you're already working, we through our team will listen, help kind of like design this, and then our job is just to really help you get it set up, and then it's doing the magic busy work behind the scenes, such that when the right time appears, and let's say in this case, Miguel's a great fit for the next role. Hey, you've built a relationship with them. It's so easy for you to reach out to them. And that'll be one of our next big capabilities. I think we'll do some demos for in the weeks ahead, where when the right time does appear for Miguel to be a fit for your role, how can you invite him to automatically interview? Carmen, I know it's a very like quick demo. We do this so often, and I probably missed something. Any like things you want me to highlight? I also have not been scanning the chat if there's anything that I need to cover there.
No, I mean, I think this, first of all, this is so hot off the presses. I'm learning new stuff as well. I love kind of the ability to pull folks into Future Fit and kind of have them automatically sequenced in that kind of campaign. I think that's brilliant. Um,
Yeah, like the three things that you can do in the ATS that would drive sequencing would be, let's say, saving a candidate. So if you're inside of the, view, as I described, you can do filtering based on the save action. So that right there would also trigger a sequence if you have one set up. And then also the tags that we defined. So as I said, if there was I think my prior one was gonna be qualified interview. This job has not had that one. I just saved it. Now that I just typed that one thing in right there, Miguel's also now set up for that particular campaign as it's been built. One for those that have been like using CRMs in our sales and marketing lives, we do have all the typical safeguards in with we're using the Wizehire email to send these emails. There's unsubscribe language built into it, and then of course we don't just send everything instantaneously. We do queue it up, so if you need to make changes, you can go back and undo before it blasts a lot of emails out to people. um, right now the capability is limited to emails. We do plan on building out more here for tasks, such as for you to make phone calls or for other automation. We'd love your ideas there. All of this will be available also through Zapier for automation, if that's something that you're leveraging. So again, why we tried to build this in a fairly straightforward way, but we want to really have our team work with you to further customize it, so it's meeting you exactly where you're at. But yeah, that's a very light like demo of campaigns, an overview of our talent pool, and as I think I said at the top of the call, we'll have in our next webinar a further improvement with Scout, where I'll kind of give it away right now, but Scout is getting quite good at matching folks within a particular role. But one thing we've realized is Scout can only match when candidates complete assessments, complete interview, screening questions. We've been spending a lot of time the last, probably 6, 9 months to teach Scout how to estimate the answers to certain questions. And this, I think, will be the biggest unlock in our goal of making Wizehire even more valuable day by day, which is to actually know instantaneously through AI, does someone that applied for a previous role have a fit for a new role? for if they've never answered a screening question. So a little bit of a preamble. Would love to have more dialogues if you guys have like ideas and suggestions there. We've been using it internally, and it's so surprisingly good. But yeah, Carmen, I'll get back to you.
Yeah, I think it would be a good I have a question, but I want to open it up for Q&A from folks on the call. So please feel free to kind of drop any questions that you have in the Q&A or the chat sort of icon. But one question that I had was about tags. So is it a pre-populated list of tags that people can choose from? Can folks set up their own tags? I'm just thinking about how folks might think about segmenting their talent pool.
Yeah, so tagging is global to your organization. As you make tags, they're available on any of your jobs. Um, and when you're using the product, I'll actually, it's a great question. I'm gonna jump right back in. As you're using the product, I'm gonna pick up here, Steve. I'm gonna go to tags. In the dropdown by default, you're gonna see the tags that are available for this role. The campaigns product can see all of the tags across your organization. And so once you set it up for one job, you'll see it for all jobs and in the campaigns product as well. Great question.
Wonderful. Any questions from folks on the call? And again, feel free to jump in the Q&A section or in the chat area.
I always miss the Q&A section.
Yeah.
Cool. Couple of the folks that have been using campaigns now for about 4 or 5 months, the most common use cases, just thinking about like the industry mix that we saw on this month's panel, um, within insurance, it's been primarily to expand your top of funnel for moving from just licensed talent to unlicensed talent, which is, I think, a big undertaking if you haven't had automation in your business previously. So we've seen a lot of customers expand their aperture and then take candidates that are not yet licensed if they don't have a program, to do nurturing, to check in with them if they've gotten that licensure. We've seen the same with a lot of our real estate customers as well. Those that are making a referral to a real estate school and then checking in, hey, how's it going? And then, of course, as the emails follow up, those all show up in your, Wizehire app and inside of your email, and you can follow up and then have conversations. So those are, I think, some of the big use cases. And I think the third industry we did have on the call, if I remember, was a lot of legal, where in the law firm case, I think the two use cases we've seen some customers have a lot of success with was actually waiting for bar results and getting
Mm.
ahead of hiring, waiting for, like if you're looking for a new year associate, instead of,
Yeah.
there's this constant race of just, hiring earlier and earlier. And the few customers that are having conversations with had said, hey, I'm gonna like start like building my pool, middle of the year, instead of waiting until folks have graduated, and then go ahead and like nurture those relationships. So I know there were a couple of people that definitely made some first year associate hires. I think much earlier than their competition as a result. So again, I think in this moment in time where the quality of job site candidates is more noise than signal, I think we all have to get more creative. And I think we saw that in the chat from, all the tactics that people are thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I do think that hiring is it becomes as someone in marketing, it feels more and more like marketing because there is this, you want to make sure you're being very consistent in how you're messaging to candidates so that they can self-select. But then you, of course, then have to think about how you nurture folks so that when you are ready, how do you know, sort of like jump on it and not sort of like wait till the last minute.
Yeah,
It's been kind of interesting to see that evolution. It's more marketing than selling.
I think that's great for one of the anonymous questions we got in, which is use cases for campaigns and hospitality, the marketing component of it, especially. So I can think of like actually quite a handful of hospitality management companies that have had advantages here. So if you, I'll first speak maybe to like the single location, like single hotel owner, and then I'll talk a bit about if you've got multiple units. Um, what we've seen folks leverage campaigns for is building a bench of housekeepers. So especially with a few folks that we've got that are very seasonal, when it's coming into like busy season, they're going back out to prior employees that they had hired through Wizehire. Because of obviously the seasonal nature of their business, they've lost touch with some of those prior employees. And one particular, like, in I think the New England area I'm thinking of, had been maintaining relationships, doing the check-ins that way, and then bringing folks back in. The other hospitality use case that I think I alluded to this a little bit at the top of the call, but especially with a lot of our um, you know, private equity backed hospitality management companies that are quite acquisitive right now. We're seeing folks do a lot of acquisitions within the same market and region. And the interesting thing here is, if you're opening up, I used to live in Austin, Texas, and Austin's kind of the traffic has made things much harder to get from one end to the other. And so commute distance was a big problem. But if you got a location that's in South Austin, you're posting a job, you may be getting someone that's outside of the range of commutability. But if you know you're opening up a new property, let's say closer to that individual, some of the smart tags that we've got where, hey, it's this, they're closer to Round Rock, you could go ahead and engage and nurture that person to apply for those open roles. Um, let's see, another question that came in. What's the best schedule to use when trying to nurture passive talent? Okay. Um, we have found through a lot of research that that's informed us for the max length of the campaigns to be about 5 emails. Our recommendation does vary, and this is where our coaches can pitch in, but internally we have recommendations by industry, by role. For licensure oriented roles where your business is not providing the license and someone has to go and get it, there we're finding a 180-day sequence works quite well. If it's something like on the insurance side where your business is providing the licensing and the education, we're seeing shorter windows. So this is really where I think a conversation with your coach to get a sense of like the overall talent pipeline, and then we can map backwards to it. But definitely, there are like some obvious answers, which are not to do everything in like a 2 week period of time or whatever the case. There are actually, I'm going to put an asterisk on that. I've seen one customer have success actually using campaigns for nurturing people to show up for group interview days. But that customer has now since converted to using Scout to have Scout handle all of the interview scheduling. So that was like not needed as much. But when they were doing it, they were doing, I think, like 2 emails back to back, like, hey, you got an interview the next day, things like that. Can you send applicants talent from one location to another? Yes. This is a great question. Thank you. So, um, again, I'll put an asterisk because this capability is going to become even better. In fact, I think maybe in the back of the call, if Carmen will permit me, I'll pull up a live demo of what's upcoming. We right now know that where candidates are, we know their locations. So we are able to do tagging and matching that way. If you've got a new role that you open up right now in the version of Wizehire on August 28th, for 90% of customers, that candidate would have had to answer the exact same screening questions for us to know their fit for new roles or the next role. I think in the days ahead, as I kind of alluded to this, when we're beaming about this inside, we are capable of understanding their answers to like 95% accuracy for those screening questions so that you can take the data of the locations that people are from, the answers that they may not have answered, but we can estimate based on their resume to then build even more bespoke campaigns to then nurture them for that upcoming property. So to give like a very tactical example of this, we have some customers that are using this in beta right now, where when they know that they're going to have the one particular example I can think of is in law, they are opening up multiple locations, and they've got 2 locations in Dallas. Again, there's like a commute distance issue, and they're nurturing the talent for when they open up the second location and they have those other opportunities. Definitely do reach out to us and we can like help like configure these. That's why we want to make these conversations, because our job is to really understand your use case and then do the busy work for you, because there's so much opportunity here. But yeah, those are awesome questions.
I think we have a couple more questions.
Oh, I should scroll. Oh my God, I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. What are the common mistakes you've noticed customers make when trying to fill roles quickly?
Okay. Part partly this is why, this is a broader question outside of campaigns. This is partly why we actually built Scout.
Mm,
I'm actually going to go back to the dashboard and just show off Scout for everyone. Um, Scout delivers personalized recommendations for the next action that we think you could take based on all the data that we have access to. So in this demo example, it's recommending that I interview these candidates and I review these candidates and move them to qualified. Um, a lot of the data that we have has suggested that uh, the number one reason that someone does not make a hire is often being too slow to follow up. And that's where Scout is spending time thinking about all the thousands of things that you could do in that 1 second. But we know that all of us have limited time. So versus meandering through, 71 candidates on all these jobs, we're going to recommend that best next step. And so, yes, not following up is like the top reason that we've seen customers not make hires. But there's a multitude of reasons, and that's why I really want to emphasize what Scout is highlighting here is data based on the optimal way to make the hires that you are focused on. And one feature about it is you can actually narrow your window that you're focused on to a particular role. So I'll click in this case. Actually, this again is a demo account, so I got to find one that has some candidates. Let's see. I'm gonna load more. You can click through and find a particular role, and it'll go ahead and then narrow your focus there as well. So by default, Scout is going to give you, of all the jobs that you have, what is the highest priority thing to work on. But this way, if you've got like one very like urgent need, you can filter into it, and then it'll give you those insights of where to spend time. Yeah, really, it's just not running a consistent process and not following up. Um, Great question also came in about text message and campaigns. This is one that we've debated a lot. So but today the version of campaigns that's out only includes emails, and future versions of the campaigns may include actions that you can take. Um, Text messaging unfortunately falls into a quite complex regulatory
mm.
world where you have to opt in. Today, when we have texting in the product, which for those that are not familiar, I'll just show off real quick. Texting is under the messaging tab where you can switch from email to SMS. These texts are one-to-one or peer-to-peer, and therefore someone does not need to opt in. What we are working on is with our council and some changes that are going on with like the Department of Labor is the ability when someone does respond to your text, that they can then do a secondary opt-in to then be a part of a campaign text. That capability is probably going to be coming out, I would say, next year. There's just a lot of like work that's going on, but yeah, it's we're working as fast as we can, and sometimes the regulations get in the way. So by default, in the interest of your brand, we do not have bulk texting available, but we're working on it, and I think in the days ahead, we'll be getting there.
These were all amazing questions. I think it's also really interesting to see how, when we think about the top hiring challenge, when we think about common mistakes people make in terms of like filling roles quickly and campaigns and passive talent, how all of those kind of work together to really like solve those challenges, so that you're not making mistakes and that you're not waiting to the last minute and that you do have enough qualified candidates. So thanks everyone for those amazing questions. Sid, I didn't know if there was something you'd mentioned wanting to kind of, show some of the other
I'll do
new
a
exciting.
sneak peek of this. This is with a this is not with the most perfect demo environment. So I want to like do a lot of asterisks on this. Um, the question that came up earlier was around matching additional talent for roles that they've not applied for and then building campaigns around it. In our next webinar next month, we're going to be launching a very big update to Scout, which is to match talent from your talent pool for roles that people have not applied to. So this is a case where we've got a hotel manager job in Englewood, Colorado. The screening criteria are hotel management experience, customer service experience, hospitality experience. And we've run through a hiring process, but if we still haven't found the talent that we're looking for, we're going to introduce another capability where Scout will look at all of the talent that has not applied for the job. We'll go ahead and have AI estimated insights for those specific skills that they've not completed a screening question for. The first version of this will roll out with the ability to invite them to apply. But if you're on a plan that has campaigns, you'd be able to sequence them in the campaign. And some other exciting things we're working on is to skip the ability for them to apply, but go straight to the interview. And that's, I think, how we can help you find tremendous value in the universe of talent that you are building relationships with. Make those matches happen even faster, and then you can beat your competition at the end of the day. So maybe a little bit of a preview of what's coming up, and we'd love any and all feedback. But Carmen, I'll let you close it out.
Yeah, no, that was pretty exciting. I had a couple of questions, but I was like, you know
I think
what?
you were out when we demoed that, by the
I'm
way.
gonna wait. I'm gonna wait until till next month, and we can sort of ask those questions and kind of get all of the insights. Yeah, so thanks everyone for joining. Just to kind of wrap it up with a few key takeaways, a reminder, look, the labor market is tight, and we know that unemployment is low, but we also know that small businesses are, having challenges finding talent and are getting, not the highest quality talent or not enough quality applicants as they would like. At the same time, passive talent can be your hidden advantage. We're all trying to do the right things and we are still going to pursue active talent, but there's also a lot of passive talent that we can engage to make sure that we're not scrambling to fill roles at the last minute. And a talent pipeline ensures you're always ready. So if you do have talent that's leaving because they are inspired by something else or something's going on, or maybe a seasonal talent, and they leave and you want to potentially re-engage them at a later time. You have them in your talent pipeline so that you're ready when you do need them. And hopefully, one of the last things you also took away from this is that Wizehire can help you do this simpler and easier and all in one platform. So you're not trying to manage all of these disparate systems and processes to make it happen. And as always, we want to approach it from a people first perspective. So you can engage our coaches to really help you get the best out of this new functionality. So I'm going to thank everyone for their time and attention and all of their questions. Many of you are customers, so you hopefully already know that you can reach out to us, but you can also email us at team@wizehire.com if you have any questions. We will be sending out a recording as well as a survey, and we really hope that you will give us some feedback and insights, both on this webinar, but also on what future topics you might be interested in hearing about or learning more about. So that's all for me.